Dude, I mean, nowadays it's all about like grinding on, like you mentioned Twitter before, MGK talking on Twitter, like Twitter, like we actually had an article about it recently about like there was artists like that straight like reinvigorated careers like MC Hammer. So like, like it's
Oh,
definitely.
actually, that's funny you say that, man, because actually, Twitter's huge. You know what I'm saying? Twitter's, I got all my contacts through Twitter. I mean,
Yeah,
if you ain't on Twitter, you ain't nobody. That's what
yeah,
I feel like right now. And
yeah,
people say, you know what I'm saying, they're like a couple of guys around here that do shit, they're like, you're on Twitter, like, that shit's gay. I'm like, no, that
yeah,
shit's not. You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, I've got so many contacts through Twitter. I mean, I talk to you on Twitter. I holler at you on Twitter. I
For
holler at
sure.
Machine Gun Kelly on Twitter. You know what I'm saying? I talk to everybody on Twitter. That's how I got all my contacts. But
I mean,
actually, you just reminded me of something, too. You said MC Hammer. I'm actually working with one of his artists that's from here. He's on the he goes by ZIF. He was on his show.
oh,
Um,
okay.
that's another guy I'm working with. I forgot to mention him, but yeah. But anyways, go ahead.
No, no, no. That's tight. Can you? How do you say his name again? The artist.
ZIF.
All right, all right.
So
Look.
DASIT. He was actually on the White Rapper show too a couple
Oh, okay.
let's
I
see
thought that
about two
sounded
years
kind of
ago.
familiar.
Yeah, he was one of the first ones knocked off, but no, he got signed to MC Hammer's label. I can't remember the name of it right now.
Well, MC Hammer
Uh,
wouldn't even have a label. He wouldn't even be making any projects happen right now if it wasn't for Twitter. Like that's what my article was
oh
about. Like
yeah,
that fool, like basically started twittering, and then people were like, like that just like took people to another level to find out, what he was doing at any given time. But yeah,
right.
like I mean, marketing yourself, like as a producer, like nowadays, do you find that a difficult thing to do, or like,
Actually, to tell you the truth, I think there's a lot of outlets now. But I think the main thing is marketing yourself. Is you just have to take it serious. You know what I mean? Being on every social networking site is possible. Just like me and you talked about a while back. You said you went on Facebook, and I said no. Well,
yeah,
now I said I am, but I'm not working out. Well, now I went back and I revamped it and everything
right,
and made it, a little more professional because, it's important. It's important to stay in contact with people because I think as a producer nowadays, you have to treat yourself like you're just a regular artist as far as like a rapper. I
mm-hmm,
mean, you have to put yourself out there because you're trying to gain fans too because that's people, I think producers are more in the spotlight now than they were 10, 15 years ago.
right,
I think that, people know producers for who they are. So, I mean, when they pick up an album, they see produced by so-and-so, a lot of hip-hop heads are like, oh, that shit's dope, I gotta hear that. So I think it's really important now to market yourself, well. I mean, I think Twitter is big. MySpace kind of fell off, but
right,
you still need it.
yeah,
It's those things, I guess. And I found myself trying to, stay relevant to to everything that's going on. You know what I mean? But then at the same time, it's hard to balance. I think right now, where it's at is you have to balance all that shit, and you have to balance being in the studio and working with the artists, and
right,
it takes a lot. I mean, for all those producers out there, I mean, I know they'll be feeling me because artists are,
yeah.
man, crazy to deal with. You know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah, yeah, scheduling and just temperaments and all that shit for real. So what about like actually like the whole production thing as far as money making and everything it really intrigues me, and I think a lot of people don't really understand, especially because it's like an ever changing sort of money making industry. Like how do you go about like you make a beat, like how do you go about seeing yourself making money off that beat? Like what are the steps that like Avalanche is going to take to make sure like if he comes up with a banger and an artist wants it, that like how are you going to make money off that beat, like to the just say to the audience who doesn't know what's what with the industry, like how do you
Right.
how do you break that down,
Well, I'll
like.
tell you what, man. I've learned a lot from just going to music conferences and networking with the different conferences. I've been to ASCAP Expo. I've been to the One Stop Shop, which is huge. It's what Shop Money puts on every year or whatever. And I think that one thing I learned is like, if anything, right now it's way more business oriented than it was a long time ago. I think that right now you really have to be, on your P's and Q's, dotting
Yeah.
your I's and crossing your T's. You know what I mean? Because if you don't, especially like somebody like me, sample clearance,
Mm-hmm.
things like that, like you can get in major trouble for that. So like,
Big
I
time.
think that me personally, when I make a beat, I ain't worried about that shit. You know what I'm
Right,
saying? Like
right,
if I flip a record, I mean I'm in artist mode then. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like, okay, I'm gonna flip this record. I'm not thinking, well, I can only use 30 seconds of this, or I can only use a minute of this because I don't want to be charged.
right,
And I think that the point that it's at now, you just really have to be careful how you present yourself to people. I mean, I think that that's the main thing because there's 1,000 producers out there, millions of producers. You know what I'm saying? I
mm-hmm.
mean, And like me personally, like you know, I anybody can get a cracked version of Reason or a cracked version of Fruity Loops now. You know what I'm saying? And all of a sudden they call themselves a producer. You know, and I think that it paints things as far as everything gets like it makes everything seem, you know, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Saturated.
Yeah,
Everything seems saturated. The market's saturated with people trying to market stuff. So I think that if you really have to present yourself as a business person, like, this is what I do. You know what I'm saying? I don't, you know, I'm not doing something else. I'm not concentrating on something else. This is what I do. So I think that submitting when submitting beats in the process like that, I just make sure it's, you know, a good quality track. I do research on the person I'm submitting to, because there's snakes in the grass out there that are trying to steal your work all the time. I mean, Apex is a perfect example. Dude stole his beat and sent it into 50 so that I get money, you know. And, you know, you just really have to pay attention to who you're submitting stuff to.
There was that whole Charles Hamilton fiasco recently.
Oh, yeah, that too. Yep.